This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Do you see what I see? Spring is coming, the signs are here, it has already begun. This is probably one of the most exciting times of the year for me, just seeing all the plants prepared to come back to life. The first bulbs are already popping up, we have crocuses in bloom. I've seen daffodil foliage along the roads and it's just, oh, it's coming! This also means that it is time to go back out into the garden and start some preparations. It is still very early in the year, obviously. I can't really start planting lots of perennials yet. We still have a few months, honestly, to go before our last frost date, but there is plenty that I can do. I haven't done any cleanup at all this year. So there's a lot of foliage from last year in the garden that I can remove. Loads of weeds. Oh my gosh, it's been a very warm winter over here. So weeds have just kept growing all winter long. We have a bunch of new soil in the garden from when our new fence was installed last year. And all of that new soil just came to life with a bunch of weeds, so I think it would be nice to go ahead and remove those. There is some pruning I can still do. I definitely need to prune the pear tree. This week should be dry. It's a bit cold. We have some light frost in the forecast, but no rain, which is great. So I should be able to go ahead and finally prune the pear tree. This is going to be its third year in our garden, so it's definitely time to start doing that, start taking care of it that way. And then there's the matter of our dead tree. We had two trees in the back of the garden, kind of like on screens for privacy from the neighbors on that side. But one of them died last spring. We had a very, very wet spring and it didn't make it through. So I'm gonna order a new one of those and we'll see when it arrives and I'll plant it in a future video. But I noticed that the nursery that we buy our trees from is having a sale right now, kind of like a pre-season sale, which is wonderful because trees are expensive. So I'm definitely gonna make use of that and order the tree. These are my latest purchases. I went to the garden center yesterday and came home with these two large terracotta pots. I kind of started this thing where I have lots of different terracotta pots just all over the garden. I really like the look of that. I feel like it looks really rustic and cottagey and just cozy. And it's a nice kind of year-round element in the garden that is just there, provides a bit of winter interest. And even when all the plants are bare, the pots are still there to give a bit of structure to the garden. So I want to expand on that and place some pots in the borders as well. So this one I'm gonna put out somewhere in the border. We'll have to see where it fits. And then plant it up with maybe an annual or something. And then this one, I have a beautiful white rose in the garden, but the pot that it is in was another terracotta pot. And that is the only one that I lost. It cracked, I think because of frost, and it's just completely falling apart. And I would like to get that rose repotted as soon as possible so that the roots aren't exposed. This is a size up, definitely, from the pot that it was in, but I think it's gonna be good. It's a fairly large plant, so it'll need space to grow. And I really like this pot. I think it's really pretty and it'll fit nicely with all of the other ones that are around it. Taking a little break from gardening here to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor, as this video is very kindly sponsored by Squarespace. The thing I love the most about Squarespace is how incredibly easy they make it to build a beautiful website from scratch with no experience whatsoever. They offer a bunch of different tools to help you create your perfect website. There's this little questionnaire you fill out, and then at the end of it, it rolls out the perfect template for you with all of the features that you're looking for, even a little bit of content based on, what your website is supposed to be about. They have powerful AI that can help you write copy for your website, ensure you have the right tone of voice that is consistent throughout your website. It really takes a lot of the work out of your hands. No coding skills necessary. It's a really simple drag and drop system that shows you what the website is going to look like on all different platforms, and it's just super easy to use. So if you are looking to build yourself a website anytime soon, start your free 14-day trial, and then once you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/Loepsie and use code Loepsie to get 10% off of your first purchase of a website or a domain. Our little pear tree, it's getting so big. It's incredible how quickly this has grown. I thought pear trees were one of the slower growing fruit trees, but at least this young one is trying its absolute hardest. This is the first year that I saw really noticeable vertical branches, and lots of them. I remember exactly the moment when they started growing. It was sometime in summer. They just shot out. And those vertical branches are the ones that you're supposed to cut off every year. They are not fruit bearing, and they do tend to take away some of the light and the airflow from the actual fruit bearing branches. So you're supposed to leave the horizontal branches, that's where the fruit grows, and then get rid of any of the vertical ones. And of course, any branches that are sick or crossing each other. So here I am taking off one entire large branch, which I wasn't expecting to do, but that one was crossing another one, and the other branch looked healthier, so I decided to sacrifice this one, cut it off at the base. And then you just want to make sure that it's a nice open structure that allows for, again, enough light and airflow. That's what they need to produce the fruit. This little thingy right here is what I put down in December to put our Christmas decoration on, and I never took it away, and now I notice my bulbs desperately trying to grow up through it. I really should have removed this sooner. I did damage a few of the bulbs, but hopefully they will recover. And on it, we had placed these herb planters on it to weigh down the whole thing, because the Christmas decoration kept toppling over. So while I was at it, I decided to trim up my herbs here, because I was already noticing some fresh foliage popping up, especially in my lemon balm back there, but the mint as well. You can see all of the little new plants coming up, and I'm so excited for fresh mint tea all season long. Can't wait. Now, this monstrosity back here is my goji berry. I don't know what to do with this plant. It is such a strange plant. It has a very weird growth habit. It just grows into a gigantic tangle of prickly branches. I've never had it bear fruit before, but to be fair, last year was the first year that it actually did anything, because I moved it to a different spot and it likes it here much better. So I'm just trimming this back pretty dramatically into a shape that I find acceptable, and we'll see what it does this year. If it's still a monster at the end of this year, I'm probably gonna remove it. So then on to the strawberries. There is a lot of dead foliage here that just doesn't look very nice. It's time to get rid of that, and here as well I already noticed some fresh new green leaves popping up underneath. And this was a very satisfying job. This is right across from our windows, so this is what we're looking at all day, and this dead foliage. Honestly, this is one of the things I should have probably cut back in autumn already and not waited until now. Although, to be fair, these strawberries produce fruit until very late in the season, so I didn't want to cut them back while they were still bearing fruit. But now it was definitely time. And it just looks so much cleaner this way. All ready for a new growing season. Next I took after these pots, and I am not entirely sure what's in these. These are just some random plants that I liked from the garden center, picked up and put into these pots. They may be annuals, so we'll see if these do anything when spring comes around, and if they don't, I will just replace them with some new annuals. I tend to put annuals in these little pots just so that I can switch them out every year. And then while I was here, I decided to take after this hydrangea. This time of the year, I feel like it's easiest to care for hydrangeas because the dead branches, they will just snap right off, or you can just literally, you touch them and they break off of the plant. And sometimes you can lift entire sections out from the earth. I feel like they kind of determine what needs to be pruned for you. So here we have more pots, and I was just again cleaning those up, removing some of the weeds that were growing in them. And I think these are some pots that I'm going to be replanting this year, because the foxglove, I feel like one of my foxgloves died, because as you can see only one of them has leaves currently. But they are also poisonous, and since we have a crawling, soon to be walking baby, I think it might be time to say goodbye to that, or at least move it to a less accessible place in the garden. The anemone didn't come back last year, so I'm fairly sure that one's dead, and the hosta just doesn't stand a chance in our very slug infested garden. So I think I'm gonna replant those when spring comes around with some different plants. So another one of our hydrangeas, and here you can see how easily I'm just plucking these dead branches out of the center of the plant. It's really easy to tell when they're still bare like this which branches are dead. And this is a very old hydrangea, so there was quite a bit that I could take out of the middle there. I do like to leave the old flowers on top. I feel like it looks a little bit more, I don't know, ornamental, I guess, like this. So I do tend to leave the last year's flowers until at least new foliage pushes for the new year. That is when I trim back the old flowers as well, for a bit of a neater look. But in general, throughout the winter I do like to keep these flowers on. I think they look pretty nice. And then in the back of our garden, as my camera is slowly panning down, I didn't notice it was slipping away. Anyway, these are my phlox, and the old flowers are definitely dead, but I can already see the new growth pushing on the bottom there. So this is really lovely. These are really strong, and I feel like they may even be increasing in quantity, which is fantastic because I love the phlox. Only thing is they need to be staked for me because they do tend to flop over when they're a bit bigger. And here we're panning to our crocuses, which you can see they have completely naturalized in our garden, which is lovely. So they're now everywhere. I also bought this random gigantic weed and a full basket of more hydrangea, as I took to this one in the back of the garden as well. Oh, my vegetable garden then. This is overgrown with weeds, and to be completely honest, I am not really sure what to do with this space. I'm not very satisfied with it, the way that it is now. I didn't plan this well when I installed it, because this section of the garden is not the sunniest, and I feel like a vegetable patch should be in full sun, at least in our climate. Full sun doesn't mean that much, to be honest. Throughout autumn and winter, this spot doesn't get any sun at all, and only in summer is there partial sun, so it's really not the best place for a vegetable garden. And then in winter it is completely bare, like nearly nothing is evergreen in here except for the magnificent rosemary there. But what I think I want to do is to just completely turn this into a herb garden. I have found in the past few years that I don't enjoy growing vegetables that much. They take a lot of work, they need a lot of maintenance, and especially right now with the baby, I just don't have that much time to dedicate to gardening on that regular of a basis. So I do have some fruit bushes in here. I have a blueberry bush and some raspberries. Those are definitely gonna leave. They don't need a lot of maintenance throughout the season. But I think I'm just gonna plant everything else up with herbs. I like herbs the most anyway out of everything I've ever grown in this garden. And I think it would be nice to just have gigantic quantities of everything. Plus, as you can see in the front here, thyme is evergreen in our climate. The rosemary is doing fantastic. So if I can get more of that type of plants in here, I think that would be great. Look a lot neater, be more useful to me and more maintainable. This is one of those less satisfying jobs because looking out now, I can't see any difference. Well, the thing is, I know that there's a difference, and when I know what to look for, I can definitely spot it as well. But it's not like the garden looks amazing now. It just looks cleaner, but still bare. But I know that this was necessary, and I'm glad that it is done. And all of the places where there was already new foliage coming up, I know that it's going to do those plants a lot of good to be rid of the old foliage. So we're good. Looking out now, though, I realized that there is one more thing I definitely need to do, and that is that the new terracotta pot, the second one that I bought, that I was gonna just put somewhere in a border, I'm not gonna do that. It needs to go around the hydrangea. That one hydrangea that I have in a grey pot, that's the only thing in a grey pot right now, and it looks weird. So we need to get some terracotta on that. That's a pot that I brought from the apartment, and on our balcony there, it was white. It was concrete painted white, the balcony, and we had like dark grey accessories. So I had pots, and then those planters that you kind of hang over the edge of the balcony, those were all dark grey. So that's also what we currently have the strawberries in, and then we have that one grey pot. But it looks out of place now. I'm gonna get rid of the planters with the strawberries, make a different system for those. I hate the way this looks, like where they are right now. Besides, that is where the tree is gonna go, so that's not gonna work. I'm gonna remove those. And we're gonna find a different solution for the strawberries. But that's gonna pretty much remove the last of the grey from the garden, so I need to get that hydrangea into terracotta. I did come across something nice for my strawberries, speaking of the strawberries, at the garden center earlier this week. They had this little like plant stand. It was a tiered plant stand. And I thought if I just pop that in the actual like vegetable bed, it will still let light through for the other things that are growing there, but it will lift them off of the ground. Because the one year I had my strawberries on the ground, I could eat like 2 of them, because every time, just before they ripened, a snail would come and eat them, or another, you know, insect. Having them off the ground last year was much better. So I definitely want to keep them off the ground, but not the way they are now, because I really don't like this look. That's them right there. And yeah, I really don't think this looks good. And that is the grey hydrangea pot that we're gonna very quickly switch over to terracotta. And I think that's just gonna look a lot more cohesive and a lot better. So let's do that. It feels so good to have all of this done. This week ended up being a lot colder than I expected. There was some night frost, but it carried over into the day as well. So the ground was frozen for the most part, and it was made it kind of hard to pull weeds, so I didn't do a lot of that, or not as much as I had hoped anyway. But I did get quite a lot done. I am very happy I did change out that pot for the hydrangea. I think that looks a lot better like this. Oh, one last thing, the trees. I want to show you the trees. Where do I have my phone? So the first one we got is a second one of what we already had. This tree right here. And it's gonna go in the same place as the previous one, the one that died, so that we have two again in the back. We decided against bumping one of them back, which I was considering at first to create a bit more of a 3D effect and maybe stagger the coverage a little bit better. But the thing with these is that they will never get taller than they are. Since they are on a frame, you're supposed to kind of trim them back to the size of that frame, so they will never be taller than they are right now. They will be fuller, of course, and thicker, but not any taller. So if we were to bump it back, the whole thing, like the whole garden, especially that back part, is on a slope just to get rid of the water if it rains a lot. So that would make this one even lower. And I feel like they are already a bit too low to like properly shield that house behind. So we decided to just put this one back where it was and then get a second tree. That would be this one right here. Looks like this, a nice blooming tree. Let me find out what this one's called in English. It is known by many names. Serviceberry, Juneberry, Saskatoon, Sugar Plum, Chuckly Pear. It's a beautiful berry-bearing blooming tree that doesn't grow too big. It's supposed to stay pretty small, and that is what we need out there. We don't have a lot of space behind our fence. That is still our property, but there's a little bit of space there, but it has a path that all of our neighbors can use to get to their back gardens. And then there is a little bit of a border, and then there's water. So that little bit of border is still ours, and that's where we want to plant the tree. But obviously we can't let it get too big because the neighbors need to be still able to use the little walkway. And we don't want it to hang over the water too far because that'll be very difficult to maintain there. So we're going to plant one out there. We're going to let it get nice and tall, but not too wide. And it should arrive between 2 and 3 meters in height, which isn't that tall. I think that would, yeah, a little bit taller than me. I'm 173, so maybe right about here will be 2 meters. I hope it's closer to 3 meters than 2, but I don't think it's gonna be. But I'm really excited about that. I will keep you updated when they come, and of course show you how we plant them and where we plant them and everything. Now that spring is on its way, I'm really excited to get out into the garden more again and take you along in all of my adventures. I have so many plans for this year. For now, this is where I'm gonna leave you. Thank you so much for joining me this week. It's been lots of fun. I really enjoyed getting back out into the garden for the first time this year. I hope you have an absolutely lovely weekend, and I will see you again next week.